Hello and welcome to the National Parents Union's Town Hall Series on School Libraries, Literacy, and Learning. I'm Shirley Irizarry, National Organizing Director for the West Region and co-host of tonight's Let's Get Real Town Hall. I'm so excited to have you here joining us in this conversation tonight as it is so important to the state of education in our nation. If you are not already a member and you would like to learn more about the National Parents Union, become an affiliate or partner of our organization, please visit nationalparentsunion.org where you can learn more about the benefits of joining, such as if you're on the West Coast, not only do you get access to me, but it also gives you access to exclusive events, such as the one that we'll be hosting this Thursday um, with with leaders from the NJ Department of the U.S. Department of Education. So with that, I'd like to introduce my co-host tonight, Jason Allen.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our fourth edition of the Let's Get Real National Town Hall Series. It is exciting to be here with everyone on this evening. Now, we want you to be engaged. We know it's the evening time, uh, probably dinner for a lot of families. So definitely check in the comments. Let us know where you're from. Who you are. This is also National Family Engagement Month. So I'm super excited to be celebrating parent, voice, and families this month, but especially kicking it off on this evening. Now, with all of that out of the way, I am Jason B. Allen. I am the National Organizing Director for the East region, but I also support the Midwest. So if you're in the South, you in the Midwest area, you up north, definitely shout out and let me know that you are tuned in. But we are super excited about what is going to happen on tonight. But also, we got some major announcements coming up this week and some things that are happening. So we are super excited about that. Now, with that being said, we have some phenomenal people that are going to be joining the conversation very soon. But I want to recap something that Shirley made a statement about earlier. So I know that people are tuning in. Welcome. Make sure you let us know where you're from. Check in, all of those things. But I want to make sure that if you are tuned in, if you're viewing live, I want to make sure that you are a member, partner, affiliate of the National Parents Union. So go to the website right at the end of the screen or bottom of the screen and make sure you get connected with us. Join the National Parents Union right now. All right, now with that being said, Shirley, I got to just do this because this is kind of like how we started off all of the town halls. Is some short introductions, but also this is the fourth one. It's the last one of the year. Shirley, I gotta ask you this: what is um, what is one of your favorite highlights from our National Town Hall series?
For me, it's been the growth. We went over earlier, the amount of people that have registered during each town hall, and we have consecutively increased our engagement. So that to me has been the highlight of hosting these town halls. I certainly have grown a lot in my presentation thanks to you being such a coach and mentor. And the highlights have also been the way that the NPU team has come together to support us and just roll up their sleeves and put in the work, such as the parent voice team, our fellow organizers, our policy corner, um, and our directors, of course. Nothing, we couldn't do anything without Carrie, Tafshir, Ariel, Bernita, Tim, Shelly, Shay, everyone from that you see in front of you that's working in the background. Mercury has been awesome
Yes.
in helping us put this together with the marketing. And it's just we've come a long way from that first one in December, where it was kind of rough, but now it's looking a little bit more polished. But I do love how it's always all hands on deck.
Okay, all right. Listen, those are some major shout outs, Shirley. Go ahead and give us the rundown and the roll call because that is awesome. We definitely want to let people know we appreciate them. And I am super excited to see all of the parents tuning in. First of all, Georgia is definitely represented tonight. Y'all are making me smile. I cannot contain it. This is awesome. But parents from the West Coast, from the Midwest, we see you. We are so appreciative of you guys joining us on this evening. Now, Shirley, I think we may have gone over this, but I know people are still connected to the conversation. If you may need translation or language support, Shirley.
If there is a way to do it in the settings, I believe. I apologize. I completely forgot about the
No
translation
problem. No
services.
problem.
So
No problem.
yeah, I know that there's a way to do it through the website, but unfortunately not directly through StreamYard.
Okay. If you need that support, let us know. We will make that
Hmm.
happen. Um, but yes, let us know. We'll definitely make that happen for you guys. All right. Now, Shirley, I think it's time for us to get right into the fireside chat. Did you want to give them some info on Thursday?
Okay, so like jumping into the fireside chat, it's going to be a short discussion with the participants, the speakers bringing the perspectives on family literacy, early learning, and educating the whole child. At this time, we'll have our guests introduce themselves, um, starting with Carl Boyd, David Armstrong, and then following up with Crystal Rios.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Shirley. My name is Carl Boyd. I'm an uncle. I'm a fatherhood advocate, former male involvement coordinator for Head Start, and just someone who embraces and loves the idea of fathers being involved in the lives of their children and their community. And I will pass it along to David.
Thank you, Carl. I appreciate that. Thanks, Shirley, Jason, for having me here today. Excuse me, my name is David Armstrong. I'm a parent leader partner. I'm an emphasized partner because that's what I am when it comes to certain issues and um, resolving certain problems with families. I bring to this space father, grandfather, and great grandfather. So I bring three generations of knowledge into this space. And again, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you again for lending your voices to this urgent conversation. So I can start with the first question. Is is for Carl. Can you talk about the importance of engaging fathers and male role models to include them in their children's education?
Well, I mean, there's already a lot of research that shows that when fathers are engaged with children, and specifically in their education, their grades, test scores go up, their attendance goes up, and their student is more likely to be entrenched in what they're doing and in their work. Um, their verbal skills are outstanding, and I'm saying this from somebody who has worked at a Head Start. Some of the beginning stages of children. Although, like my partner David will tell you, and he'll go into that more, I would actually say that the development of a child and all those things actually start prenatal. And I want to pass it along to David to kind of go more into that.
Thanks, Carl. I appreciate that. Shirley, I could be wrong, but I've been thinking about this really hard. The last time I checked, fathers and male caregivers were part of the family structure for a very long time. Very long time. I mean, Adam and Eve going way back. So we as fathers, we just want to be recognized that we are part of the family structures and we have ideas for our children to reach their fullest potential. But like I said, just going back, we have a history, with being part of that family structure. So now we're making the invisible visible when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, and to add to that, I'll just say that fathers want to be seen, heard, and they want to be a part of the conversation. They want to be a part of the co-design, not just coming to the table when the table's already built. We want to be a part of co-design so that we can help build the table equally and unilaterally.
Wow, so that's why I'm so excited to have you with us, so you can share that perspective. Can you share what are some of the barriers that are preventing effective engagement with fathers and male role models, and what can we as organizers do to help overcome those barriers?
Carl, if you don't mind, I'll go first, and
So,
you could.
absolutely.
I mean, some of the barriers, Shirley, is that we're not intentionally or authentically engaged as fathers. We are basically a check mark, maybe. We get invited to the table, but it's a difference between engaging and involving. Engaged, you invite me to the table, but once I get to the table, you don't hear my voice. You don't value my input. You you invite me to the party, but you don't allow me to dance. So, that's some of the barriers and stuff. It's changing that mindset. And I appreciate the young ladies and the women that put in the work. 85, 90% of early childhood education is females. And it's very difficult to change that mindset that fathers are more than providers and protectors. We're also nurturer. Thanks. Go ahead, Kyle.
And I'll just add to that as somebody who has worked in Head Start as a male involvement coordinator. There are not that many males or fathers working in that. It's probably 90 some percent women and mothers. And but what I will say about Head Start is that we've taken great strides to make sure we are including fathers in the conversation. We are inviting fathers to the table, and not just engaging fathers, but like David always says, there's engagement and there's involvement. Engagement is me having an event and doing like a one and done. Involvement is me saying we want you to come back. We want to continue to do things with you.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to continue to be a part of the conversation, because I know as a male involvement coordinator, this is like my motto. I always said my role as a male involvement coordinator is never to diminish the important role of motherhood, but rather to emphasize the equally important role of fatherhood and male involvement. So we're not excluding mothers. We're just saying that we want to be on equal footing, and like David said, we want to be invited to the dance because everybody wants to dance.
Thank you for sharing that. And again, I can agree that we certainly can do more. We need to do more to move past that engagement and into the involvement portion of allowing, just welcome you into just your children's education and making sure that you have not a place at the table, a voice, and that you're part of the decision making process. So I appreciate the perspectives that you both bring, and I'm certainly looking forward to this. Is another reason why becoming a member of the National Parents Union is so important, because we are building coalitions, and one of the coalitions that we are building is a male role model coalition where we are, going to be gathering organizations that are male led and male focused, to
and
come
and
together and do the work.
and Shirley, I just want to say, like, this is a prime example. You invited us to the table. You are participating and helping us to be a part of the co-design by doing an event like this. I'm
Absolutely.
seeing all the different people from all over the country, and this is not even a first step. This is the next steps to us being able to be a part of the different conversations that we need to be a part of. So, and I know I can speak for David on this one. We just want to thank you for inviting us to do this.
And like I said, we're so thankful to have you here. Right now, I would like to have Crystal introduce herself, and she can share a little bit about the work that she's doing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shirley, and thanks for inviting me this evening. Good evening. My name is Crystal Rios, and I am the Early Childhood Engagement Manager at Kids First Chicago. We are leading a co design team of early childhood parents, advocates, and providers as parents, define what is quality early child education and care. So we're right before we launch our survey. We're going to launch a citywide survey in Chicago by the end of this month. So we're at an exciting time of this co-design. But yeah, so that's who I am, and that's what I do at Kids First.
We're so glad to have you. And my question to you is seeing that your work is focused on early childhood data and working closely with parents of young children, can you share what you've discovered so far to be key priorities for these families?
Yeah, definitely. First and foremost, data needs to be accessible to families. We want data, it's something that families should have that they can interact with and understand. And by putting family voice at the center of the conversation, helps that data come to life, excuse me. It also brings better solutions to the changes needed in their home and community. And additionally, families understand the urgencies of supporting the work that is happening in early childhood because it is a critical time for brain development. But what we are learning is that there are a lot of gaps in the data. So the data needs to be created so that it's equitable for all families to have access to high quality early childhood education and care.
Awesome, Crystal. I'm glad that you're a part of the fireside chat. You guys have really been sharing some phenomenal information on this evening. Now, listen, if you're viewing this live and you have a question that you may want to ask, we can definitely see how we can work that in. So don't be shy in asking questions as well about this critical work. Just to remind everyone, we're talking about early learning, we're talking about family literacy, and we're talking about educating the whole child. So I have a follow-up question for all of you all, and we'll start with David. We'll hear from Carl, and then we'll hear from Crystal. But here's my follow-up question. Okay, how can we reach more underserved families in ensuring they are connected to literacy resources and also a lot of the resources that you all offer? So we'll hear from David, then Carl, then from Crystal.
Well, thanks, Jason. I appreciate that. And like I said a little earlier, it's about intentionally and authentically engaging parents and families. Um, Really, nothing for us without us. You need that lived experience at the table to let you know what's working and what's not working. So, and we have to have a welcoming space, for all parents and families, especially fathers and stuff, because like I say, it's a small amount of fathers that are engaged in education. I was a PTO president for 10 years in my grandson elementary school. The first couple of years was gaining the respect of the administrators and the staff. I would come to the school and for my grandchild, and they would look at around me and say, like, where's the mother? Where's the aunt? You know. So it's about changing that mindset. It's about self-reflection and seeing if you really, really being intentional and authentic when you engage in families and you believe in what they are bringing to the table. Just real quick, just important with all the letters behind your name. That's fantastic. You work hard to get that, but just as important is MOM, mom, and DAD, dad.
Right. Absolutely. And and to what David was saying, that lived experience piece is super important. A lot of times some people get caught up in the degrees and the different things they have, but you also have to remember that the mother and father is a child's first teacher. So we're talking about early literacy, early development, all those things. Parents are doing things that they don't even realize they're doing to help to implement the development of their children. So the things that I think that we have to do in order to keep that up is we have to invite as far as fathers go, we have to invite fathers to the table. We have to utilize advocacy tools. I was a part of a group called Jersey Can, and Jersey Can is doing things around early literacy and reading and the developmental milestones and all those things. Implementing local programming, like I know my agency, Center for Family Services, has a program called Framing Fatherhood that teaches or facilitates fathers in how to engage with their children. It creates a community of fathers. You also have to create a community in order for fathers to be comfortable. You have to create an inviting setting, and all these little backdrop things that I'm mentioning. Basically, it helps the confidence of the father, but it also helps with the early literacy and the early milestones and all of those things. So we have to invite people to the table. We have to realize that lived experience is important, and we just have to work together to do better.
I'm gonna go next. Thanks, guys. And to extend on that, I would also, I definitely obviously agree, and I would add community partnerships and creating a space for community partnerships. When our communities are in collaboration with raising awareness with the people who are already doing the active groundwork, serving underserved communities. Um, we want those people in front of individuals who need those resources and showing them how to get the information that they're looking for. We're going to start to bridge that gap for literacy resources. But there's a lot of communities out there. There's a lot of people doing the work. We just really need to begin to bridge those community partnerships together to get that in front of parents and families.
And can I piggyback real quick? And thanks a lot, Crystal. It's simply amazing that literacy is important. We have to invest early. We have to get legislators to invest early in early childhood literacy, because believe it or not, and I hope it's a rumor, but it's not. People are taking our third grade scores to decide how many prisons to build. That's the
Mhm.
school to prison pipeline.
Yeah.
So that's why literacy is very important. And the other thing I just want to mention, it doesn't start after the child is born. Parents only know what they know. Prenatal is very important in starting literacy and having conversation while the baby is in the womb.
Right.
Absolutely.
And even to that, and I'm sorry, and I know you have to move forward, but the prenatal part, reading reading to your baby who's not born yet. Reading bedtime stories before they're born. That prenatal the prenatal thing that David is talking about is real. Creating good vibes and good thoughts and those things that you think that it's not affecting the baby, but it's going to affect the outcomes, even before they get here. So,
I love that, guys. I was going to let you get a few more comments in because we've come to the end of the fireside chat, but I want to give you guys some space to give final thoughts. So we'll keep the same order. David, we'll hear from you, then we'll hear from Carl, then we'll hear from Crystal.
Well, thanks again, Jason. Like I said, systems are working as intended, but unfortunately, it's not working for everybody. We need to change that. We need to tweak the system. We need to have self reflection when it comes to services and support for all people. And, you know, it, we just need to do that. Our children are our future, and need to act like they're our future by investing in them early. And with fathers being involved, it brings even much better hope for our children to reach their fullest potential.
and and I'll just say that like I said, I'm an uncle, so I'm a father figure in this space, but I've been working in this space for over 10 years, and I've been an uncle for over 20. So to fill in those gaps, to be an additional support in the family, has served my nieces and nephews well, and I love every minute of it. But to what Crystal was saying about community partnerships, community involvement, we have to continue to, have those things going, and just support the programs that are out there. There's a program called Fatherless for a Fatherless Generation, that exist in my area, and they are doing phenomenal work with children and taking them to different places and creating engagement and doing different things. Like I said, framing fatherhood. Another gentleman, Rashawn Hornsby, he does a fatherhood program that is in the center I just left. So we have a lot of amazing people doing things not only through nonprofits, but from the grassroots level, and we have to continue to support those programs in order to support the children that we are serving.
Absolutely. And I'll just wrap up by reiterating that data and early childhood literacy, it has to be accessible to families in order for that data to come alive. And we need that data to be equitable and community partnerships, as the guys were just talking about as well. But community partnerships to work together to serve our families in need. But yeah, thank you for having me. I just got to rep Chicago really quick, south side of Chicago. We're working out here, and it's a lot of work, but we really enjoy what we're doing out here.
And I just want to say one more thing. I'm sorry. There is something I know that Jersey Candy, you know this, Shirley. They've been promoting this film called The Right to Read. That's very important, and reading is a fundamental right, and we have to support our children in doing that. And they show films in different locations, different parts of the state and everything like that. So I recommend like trying to get a hold of a screening and showing that to your community. And just I've seen some multiple comments about and I'm paraphrasing. One comment said it costs nothing to spark literacy in your children, and it absolutely costs you nothing. Just sit down and do the things that you're doing anyway. So we have to spark that literacy bug, and we have to continue to support our children.
Awesome, awesome. All right, these were some amazing final closing thoughts. Now, um, right before the 7 o'clock hour, I do want to ask, how can people get connected to the work that you all are doing? We know how to get connected to the National Parents Union, but how can we get connected to you all? So, David, we'll start with you, Carl, and then Crystal.
I mean, I could put my email in the chat, my personal email, and you could take it from there. And also, I've joined, hopefully, you got my application, the National NPU. So I'm looking to
Awesome,
collaborate. So I'm going to put my email address in there and feel free to reach out anytime.
awesome, awesome.
And what I'm doing is I'm going to actually put my phone number. I know it might be a number of people. I'm put my phone number and email in the chat, so that if anybody wants to even just reach out to me and have a conversation, I am definitely open to that, and definitely open to hearing different perspectives from people around the country. So I'm putting
Awesome.
that in the chat right now.
All right. That sounds good. Crystal.
Yeah, I just followed. I just added to the chat as well my work email and then my personal phone number. But just a phone call and a text away as well, and an email.
Awesome. Awesome, guys. This has been phenomenal. Shirley, major shout out to you for leading this segment of the conversation. And I am so glad that we were able to do this, guys. And we did this in a timely manner. So, in celebration of National Family Engagement Month, we want to make sure that we are showing people we're valuing your time. Crystal, David, Carl, thank you so much for your work. Now, David mentioned something important before we move on to our next segment. He mentioned that he has recently joined the National Parents Union. So before we go to our panel, make sure you go to our website, join the National Parents Union. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of throw out this little snippet, right? We do
I
have
have
a
as
male
well. So I just want you to
fatherhood.
know I also
We
joined.
Yes, thank you, brother Carl. Thank you. Okay, thank you, brother. Thank you. So we got everybody on here that's joined. Now we want to see you all joining from all across, joining the NPU. I did want to say that we have a male fatherhood coalition. as well as special education and literacy, housing justice, social emotional learning. So we want to get connected, bring people together to get more wins for our kids. So let's make sure we join together. Guys, thank you so much for joining us again. And we look forward to connecting with you in the near future.
Right. And I just want to
Thank you.
say, do better together. So let's do this.
Awesome. Thank you, Brother
Thanks,
Carl.
Carl.
Awesome. All
That was
right,
an
Shirley.
awesome. That was an awesome fireside chat.
Yes, that was an awesome experience, and we are super thankful again for those participants in the fireside chat. And it is now time for us to go right into our panel discussion. So I think that we are ready for this segment. Now, we have some amazing people that are coming up for our panel. So we had a good fireside chat discussion. I have to say, Brother Coffrey, thank you for volunteering to host the Right to Read. We are planning the Georgia Parent Week of Action. I already see Tina sending messages. So, Georgia, y'all don't show out too much now. Y'all don't show out too much on the comments, but we
And
are planning a week of action and around the nation. So get
mhm.
connected to NPU because we have a Parent Week of Action coming to a city or state near you. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to say, these are some amazing people coming on now, from Dia to Pascal to Tina to Dr. Terrence. We are so thankful to have you all a part of this conversation this evening. And we're going to, before we start the education segment and go into the questions, guys, we want you to be able to introduce yourself. Now, major shout out to Mercury and the Parent Voice team. They have done some phenomenal introductions to uh, the panelists and the participants in the fireside chat. So if you didn't check their credentials, if you did not read their info, don't worry about it. We're going to go in this order. We're going to start with Dia. We're going to hear from our dear friend Pascal. We're going to go to Tina, and then Dr. T, my brother, we're going to come to you. So, Dia, tell the people a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and some of the work that you're doing.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Hopefully, you can hear me. My name is Dia Mixon. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and I am a mother, teacher, and author. So I'm coming with three different perspectives. I teach middle school and high school Spanish, and I've been doing that for 16 years. And I just recently, in the last 2 years, became an award-winning children's book author. I write books that celebrate bilingualism, biculturalism, and showing the diversity within the diversity of African American families and Latinx families. So I'm really happy to be here and kind of share my perspective on family engagement and literacy.
Awesome. So let me recap right quick. I'm not going to do this for everyone, I promise, in the essence of time. But what I heard Dia say is that she is going to be willing to host Arthur's Corner, a part of the Parent Week of Action in her community. That's what I heard. So I'm excited about that, so she can share some of her work and her brilliance with other parents in her area and getting them connected. So I love how that worked. Now, Pascal, and we have an amazing friend that's joining us. We're going to pass the mic to you to do some short introduction.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
So I am Pascal Small. More importantly, I am the mother of 3 Afro-Latino babies, including one here that found me, Camila. So I come from Waldorf, Maryland. I'm also Costa Rican. So I do work at the national level for greatschools.org, as well as part of the Family Advisory Council with National Parents Union. I am super involved in my community here in Charles County, Maryland, with Charles County Rise, Charles County Moms of Color. And in general, I fight for these babies. I fight for my babies. I fight for your babies. And I'm going to send her to bed now.
Awesome. We love the kids. So we also try to make it a norm that we know parents are parents, right? So we like to encourage kids to be a part of the conversation if they can, are super excited that she got a chance to say hello. Tina, we're going to come
Thank
right
you.
over to you.
Hey, I'm Tina Engberg. I'm the state leader for Decoding Dyslexia Georgia, which is a grassroots advocacy devoted to spreading the word about dyslexia and advocating for supportive changes within schools in the state. And we do work nationally as well to ensure that students with dyslexia are not excluded from their education because of their learning disability.
Awesome. All right, now listen. I told you guys I wasn't gonna do this for each person, and I'm not. But I'm gonna. The special education teacher in me wants to say that I am super excited about this conversation and the policy corner that is going to be coming next because there's going to be some major movement. So. For all of our partners who are tuned in that are a part of our Special Education Coalition, major shout out to you and some of the work that you're doing, and we are super excited about having Tina on this evening. Now, Dr. T, go ahead, man. I'm not even going to say anything. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Like I got my pen and paper out because it's always a treat dropping jewels this anytime I'm in the midst of you all. But I'm Dr. Terrence Hanfield. I am a father of two black beautiful boys. First, I am a educator. I'm elementary and ENL teacher. I currently teach kindergarten, as well as we're doing some work here with Indie Kids Whitney. That's a grassroots organization that I recently became a part of, and I'm just really happy to be here. Recently relocated from Atlanta, Georgia, and done a lot of work there. So just really happy to be here.
Awesome. Now, listen, Terrence, is phenomenal. Let me just throw out here that he said Indie Kids winning. Now, if you have not checked out Professor JBA, that's me, Professor JBA and the Eduverse, it is a part of Indie Kids winning. It's a blog to really help, Pascal, feel me on this. It really helps parents learn how to navigate the system. So I'm a former district school
Yes.
and also teacher. And so I'm trying to give parents, the inside scoop on this is how you need to get with the system to get the things done for our kids. So make sure you check out the Edgeverse. Now, with that being said, guys, we are ready to go ahead and start with our panel. In the essence of celebrating hip hop, Shirley and I are going to kind of do this like tag team. Whoop, there it is, right? So I'm going to ask a question. Shirley's going to do a follow up. Shirley's going to ask a question. I'm going to do a follow up, right? So we're going to go with that type of flow. There is good energy. Again, I have to say, if you are connected to this conversation and you may have missed the fireside chat, okay, we're gonna let you slide. But now get connected to the conversation, share this with other people, and we're gonna get right into it. So our education segment is starting now. And here is our first question. Again, we're going to keep the same order. Dia, Pascal, Tina, Dr. T. All right. Now, first question is this. What does literacy for families look like in your local schools? Okay, so that could be the local school that you work in, advocate for, your community schools you pay the taxes to. It could be the schools you advocate for in your state. But the question is, what does literacy for families look like in your local schools? And we're also going to ask this of the audience. So if you're watching live and want to comment and just maybe shout out your schools, then please be engaged. But Dia, we're starting with you.
All right. So, literacy for families in my local school district, actually, I've noticed I've noticed it more as an author because I'm being invited to do more in schools, which is really, really inspiring and encouraging. I'm seeing a lot more, especially at the elementary school level, family literacy nights. And I think after talking to different librarians and teachers in these schools, it's coming off of, the parents wanting to have a chance to connect with their child in their schools, but not being able to because they work. So having these like 90-minute to 2-hour chunks in the evening where they're going through stations of activities, reading activities, writing activities, games, meet the author little segments. They're doing that more and more, and I'm seeing it around. In Columbus, we have our major school district, Columbus City Schools, but then we also have the suburban districts all surrounding. And I'm very happy to join, and I do it at no charge to go and be a part of these nights, because it's so nice to see almost the child as the leader, and showing their parents through the school, and working with them, and they're holding hands, and they're walking into the library, and they're walking through the halls. So I actually, before becoming an author, I really didn't know that these things were happening. But it turns out that they're starting to really ramp up, especially when they do it like multiple times a year. So once in the fall, once in the winter, once in the spring. Um, so that's been really cool to see.
Is it my
Pascal,
turn?
you're up
Am I going?
next. Yeah.
Okay. You gotta let me know. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Charles County for a little bit, and Maryland. So that's where I live. And for us, literacy, we follow the blueprint for Maryland's future, which is this huge education bill that's supposed to transform our schools in the state of Maryland. So we in Charles County have three major goals. The first one is that all pre-K kindergarten students are demonstrating readiness for kindergarten. And through that, we have the Connect for Learning curriculum, and we do supplemental phonological awareness, and we have resources within the school that you're supposed to have and for families. And I say supposed to have because sometimes we don't have those resources, but this is why I bring up the policy piece, because for me, in the way that I advocate, I need to know policy and procedure so I know what I can stand on, and I know what we deserve and what we're supposed to have to start off with. We're also supposed to be providing professional learning for pre-K teachers on early literacy. The second goal is that all third graders are supposed to be proficient by the end of third grade. And that's through the blueprint, and that's also through COMAR. So that means implemented into reading is a core program. We align with small group reading blocks, as well as incorporating decodable readers to help with students who are struggling with phonics and phonological awareness. We also use iReady data to make sure that we are tracking where students start and also their growth, so that we know the supports that they may need. You also can receive instruction outside of the classroom. And that's something that parents can advocate for. It is tied to the data that your child is showing in terms of where they fall under MCAP, which is our state standardized test scores. But you can advocate for it if you feel like your child needs some extra supports. You can advocate for it at the school level as well as the district level. And then we're also providing support for struggling readers in grades 4th and 5th, because we know through the pandemic, we had a lot of students that didn't receive the supports they originally could have gotten. So we're still helping those students in the 4th and 5th grade and beyond. And that's with explicit high leverage tutoring, which you can ask for if you're not getting it. And I say that because some students are not yet getting it. So ask for it. And that follows the science of reading. And then we also have additional professional learning, which is provided to 4th and 5th grade teachers to support those foundational skills, as we do have some teachers that don't really understand how to really teach reading as we should today. So we're helping both the educators and the students and parents. Again, you can ask for those supports for your student. You can also ask for supports for yourself. If you were taught reading a certain way and you're like, I'm trying to unlearn that and relearn how I'm supposed to be teaching my child to read, ask for those supports at your school. So that's what we're doing here in Charles County in the state of Maryland.
Okay, listen, let me tell you, and this also it's major when somebody is highlighting the work that you're doing. Educators and teachers always appreciate that, and it also lets people know now they didn't necessarily call my name, so I may need to look at some of my practices. Now, just a quick interlude right here. We know that Tina is going to be coming in with the lens specifically on special education. So I'm going to say this. We know that learning loss has been a major thing. A lot of kids have been misdiagnosed and have not been properly tested. So I'm just going to, say this right now before we pass the mic to Tina. If she's not highlighting some of the work that you're doing, parents should be very concerned, because these are things that we know should be happening in our schools. That's all I'm going to say. But Tina, let's pass the mic to you.
Okay, so I did not have a good experience for my child in our a very large metro Atlanta district. Our principal was a dyslexia denier. We came to the table with armed with a lot of information saying, hey, we know he's got a problem. We identified a problem in preschool. We started out the gate really not. I didn't know what I didn't know about special education until I really got in the weeds with my younger son. My elder had an IEP for other health impairment, but that was nothing compared to specific learning disability and reading. Our schools have traditionally struggled in identifying students with dyslexia in Georgia in general. We do not use the discrepancy model in Georgia anymore, but there is so much information that has not adequately been conveyed to schools regarding what dyslexia is, what to look out for, and the fact that dyslexia can affect any child, regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of whether they speak another language coming to school or multiple languages. It affects everybody. It is the most common learning disability, and specific learning disability is the largest eligibility category under IDEA. The best place to solve problems for dyslexics is tier one, ground level. We need to get reading right at the ground level so that kids start out being identified as early as possible so that parents can do something about it. And one of the things that has really driven the work that I've done over the past 12 years since my son was identified, he's now a senior. So we have been through the whole gamut. And a lot of the work that we've been able to do, we did ourselves. We worked with people who were able to help him because we kept running into roadblocks. And the earlier a school identifies a student and helps them get on their way, the less a dyslexia diagnosis has major effects on that student's self-esteem and their ability to keep learning and learn and do the classwork at grade level and above as they keep going through grades. Special education is very frustrating in that regard because a lot of teachers are not equipped. And so I do want to make a personal shout out. Part of the dyslexia pilot program that was a part of Georgia's first dyslexia bill, SB 48, which was signed into law in 2019, so we're almost on 5 years now, is Marietta City Schools. Marietta City Schools is just a couple miles away from me and has started in the past 3 years an initiative that has really focused on changing how they do teacher training about reading, how they are teaching students, how they're identifying students. And they've been working with a local organization called Cox Campus. And Cox Campus is free to everyone. Parents who want to know more about how to help their own children, there are videos, there's lots of information. There's information in Spanish. There is just a wealth of information that they have brought to Marietta City Schools. Because once Marietta City Schools participated in the dyslexia pilot through the Department of Education, they realized very suddenly that dyslexia really wasn't the bigger problem. The bigger problem was they weren't teaching all children how to read in their elementary schools.
Wow, Tina, let me tell you, a lot of responses in the comment section. So we are super excited to hear from Dr. T, who is an educator. And one of the things that we've been hearing as a common theme is that teachers, educators are not getting the proper professional development and training that is needed. So we need you guys to stay connected to the policy corner, because a big part of this conversation that NPU loves to reinforce is accountability, driving parent power to make sure that the system is held accountable to what it should be doing. So Tina, thank you for sharing that information. Make sure you stay connected to Tina, because there's going to be a special announcement that is also coming up very soon. Dr. T, you are an educator. You are also a father, amongst an advocate and other things. Can you address this question and give us some insight from your perspective?
Yes. Some things that are happening. Uh, Relocating from here, from Georgia to here in Indianapolis now, and some things that I'm noticing is the cultural relevant materials that are being changed. So that's a big part of literacy. Is can I adapt or can I identify with the material being used? And some of the work that we're doing. I'm right now one of the committee members on the CRE committee, which is the Cultural Racial Equity Committee here for IPS. That's a lot of the things that we're looking at. Are all these policies that are on the board that regards to literacy, are they equitable? And one of the biggest part of that is letting the parents know that the resources are out there. We started using UFly, and I would touch on one of the biggest complaints from some of the educators is, hey, the the process in which we are being trained on this curriculum. Um, how are we? Where is the time? Who could we reach out? Who can we reach out to? That is very who is the expert in this curriculum. So that's some of the work that uh, not only as an educator but as a parent I can't just solely. I have to be able to support my teachers when the teachers are reaching out to ask for volunteers. Respond to the letters. I send out you fly. I send out my parent letters to get essentially the parent kids of what we're doing in the curriculum. That's something that you don't see a lot of. Is here is the parent portion of the curriculum, and a lot of these curriculums have it in there. I think is going through the process of letting everybody know what is in there, what does this all entail. So that was that. There's a lot of work being done between culturally relevant materials, the assessments and monitoring. So I see some of my colleagues here. They talked about iReady. They talked about Cox Campus, which are two that I'm very familiar with, and right now we're using Imagine. As which is very similar to iReady, and I'm fairly new to it, but the context was the teacher to parent. How do I how do I get this to flow from the classroom to the house? How do I let them know what resources are available and how do you have more resources? How do they sign up for these things? And the biggest disconnect is how do I? Anytime I'm having my parent teaching meetings or anything of that nature is, oh, when there was that email. So keeping abreast, having that email sent out, everything is easily digestible and sent out more regularly. I hope that.
Thank you all for those responses, and a lot of you touched on some ways that parents could, either advocate or look for resources in order to help those outcomes. And Dr. T, you talked about the disconnect between the parent portion of the curriculum and the resources. So my question is. Um, what can parents and other stakeholders do to improve those outcomes for students? And starting with DM.
I think like it always goes back to getting to know the student. And one of the most disheartening things is when you hear like, the child hates to read or something like that. And that's what's preventing, the learning and the literacy development. But really it's not that, it's that they need books that interest them, right? Or books that they can connect to, that they can learn things that they're interested in. So I would say, um, request diversity audits in your school libraries. I think public libraries have caught on, right? Because they're looking at the ALA and other organizations and following their lead, but school libraries can fall behind. So you can even look on the ALA, the American Library Association website, on how to conduct a diversity audit and make sure that the books are reflecting the students. Like, we've got the windows and mirrors conversation. We want them to see themselves in books, but you also want them to learn about others in books. And maybe you'll start to see that the content that they're learning to read in is really what they dislike. It's not the act of reading. But getting to know the child is step one, because then you can learn a lot about what types of books and materials to provide them with, and all the different content to provide them with.
Yeah, I agree. The students need to be able to see themselves and see others, especially the ones that they know, and learn more about other students as well. Pascal, can you share some of your input?
This one's a big question because there's so many things you can do. And so as a parent, I take it by levels, right? So going at the first level, what can you do to help improve outcomes for students? Your child, working with your teacher, for example, is first meet with your child's teacher, ask for data. I love data because that's what can frame my conversation. So I try to meet with my teachers quarterly. I look at iReady data. I do look at MCAT scores. I look at report cards. I look to see if my child at home is mastering content. I want to know, what does that even mean when we say master content? And that's where I ask, where's my child succeeding so I can give them their flowers? And where can I double down on supports where they may be struggling a little bit? Also, this is important for me. The second level of power is knowing the law in your state, knowing your school and your district's implementation plans, knowing programming at your school and your classroom. That's a lot for parents to have to learn. But the more we know, the more we can stand on with policy, the more we can hold our schools, our educators, ourselves, our district, our state accountable to say, my child actually has access and deserves X, Y, and Z, whether that's out of class time support, whether that's after school support. So we need to know those things to be truly successful in being our child's best advocate. Also, if your child has, if you have a feeling also that your child is still there's something here that's stopping my child from being fully successful and reaching their highest potential, you can also ask if your child can get evaluated. Go through Child Find. That's a process designed to locate, identify, and refer children with disabilities. I have young babies, so I always look for the younger ones. So I went through Child Find, and I was able to get my child an IEP so that they can have help with speech and language delays and have help with reading as well. So the other thing could be also your school culture and climate. To me, all of it connects together to student outcomes, whether it's, okay, if we have, rigor, if we have the academics portion piece, but what does your school and climate and culture look like? If your child's not happy to go to school and your parents aren't involved and they're not allowed in the school building, we have a problem, and that's going to affect your child's outcomes. So also ask your school and your district, what are their plans for school climate and culture, to make sure that we are creating joyous, affirming, safe, rigorous places of learning. So those are a couple things. Those are a couple ideas.
You are a tough act to follow.
I don't play about these babies.
No, and we should, and you are exactly right. We should not be playing about the babies, because dyslexia can be identified as early as preschool. And
Yes.
that first part of it is the speech part. Dyslexia is primarily, not always, rooted in a phonological deficit. In other words, the inability to hear the sounds in our language. And that translates into sometimes very young children having great difficulty finding words, enunciating words, difficulty with rhyming. So when you're doing patty cake, and doing all the schoolhouse rhymes and whatnot, those were the red flags that my son was throwing at the onset in preschool, was that he was very excited to be at preschool. But once you got into sort of the word play and the things that you can do with your child before they hit school, he wanted none of it, and he wasn't capable of doing it. And that was what sent me to the school very early on, before he hit kindergarten, to see if he was eligible for an IEP for speech and language services. Unfortunately, he was too good for whatever whatever bar they set. And I did not, unfortunately, seek private evaluation from a speech language pathologist or go to one of the resources in Metro Atlanta that would have done that for us. And I regret that. And that's part of one of the things that really drives my advocacy, is because we need to be catching these kids early. We need to be teaching them how to read, and we need to get them into text, and we need to get them reading, so that the Matthew effects, which are what happen when children do not take in more words as they become readers, that there is a gap that exists, and then that starts to show in the testing that students do over time. I actually have jotted down a couple of resources that parents and other shareholders can do at home. And I understand that a lot of parents with dyslexia themselves are not good readers. Advocate at your library to have access to children's books that are available there's a format called Playaway that our library system offers, these little playaways, and it had short books on it. And there are also other avenues for getting access to digital versions of books through your library. My library system uses something called Libby, which is a part of the Overdrive. So when you go into the library website and check out a book, you're checking out an Overdrive file. And then on my phone, I have the Libby app, and that Libby app plays the books, and they're professionally recorded by actors, and the difference is that they don't have the text paired with them. And when you have a student with a learning disability, make sure that the school is able to help you get access to either Bookshare, which is a federally funded program, or Learning Ally, which is the former national repository for audio books for the vision impaired. And so those are really great ways to gain access when parents themselves are having difficulty with text reading on their own. The other is that there's a great organization called readaloud.org that talks about the benefits of reading aloud to your child. And that's how you're filling in information and giving them access to our language and giving them background knowledge, because text conveys language that is far more complex than spoken language. And I'll stop talking now because Dr. T needs to talk.
Dr. T does need to go, but Tina, that was phenomenal.
I'm writing down all the resources. I hope you all know that. So I need a running list afterwards.
What I'll do is I'll mute myself and type them into the I'll type them into the chat.
We need to add them. We need to add them to our toolkits.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm writing down everything as well. You guys are definitely giving me a challenge after this long day of teaching. Like, what can I add that hasn't already been said? But while listening to you guys and just thinking as not only a parent, but also the educator, what am I seeing between the lines that we've already heard? And one of the biggest things that I would suggest is identifying the early signs. Like we've said, hey, getting those resources, but what is the beginning? What is scratch? What is ground zero? The ground zero is identifying the early signs of reading difficulties and seeking the appropriate interventions. I'm going to pause right there. I'm going to pivot a little bit by saying there are programs that start as early as 2 and 3 years old. 2 and 3 years old, depending on which state you're in. There are programs. If you make sure you do your investigations, you can. We've talked about the libraries. They have milestone pamphlets that tell you what your child should be doing. I've also had some experience in infants and toddlers, so we have to be mindful. Are they cooing at the right time? In milestones such as that at an early age, so that you, once they get 2 years old or they get 3, you can identify, hey, my child's not are meeting this milestone or they're exceeding it, and staying on top of that to either make sure they go further in their advancement, or you are able to get them and get to their expected what they should be doing at whatever age they are on. Um, Another thing that I want to touch on is adult habits, modeling reading habits. They will do what they see you do, right? Um, Even as an educator, however, I'm reading, however, I'm saying they're going to model my mannerisms. So, as a parent, being mindful of that, adults who model reading behaviors uh, and demonstrate the importance, influence their student on the similar habits. So, for example, my sons, whatever they're studying, I get those posters. They're in the room, so this is what they wake up to. That's what they go to sleep to. My youngest son's room, his room looks like a mini kindergarten classroom. I'm talking about for the carpet. You can get the posters that are in the classroom on Amazon for less than $20. You can get the pointers. You can get everything that's in your students' classroom. You can mimic that at home. It does not cost a lot of money. I'm telling you, because I've done it, because I something. Hey, and I wanted to touch on the advocating of part for extra resources or increasing the resources. It is okay for you to get services in the school and use your benefits. I didn't say insurance, but whatever benefits package you have outside of the home. If your son or daughter is getting speech in the classroom, in the school, and you have insurance that allows you to have speech outside, do it. The more the merrier, the better. You can only get better. It won't have worse. Just make sure each stakeholder is able to talk to each other, or you're passing on, hey, this is what we're working on at school. This is what they're working on at home. So that's some of the things that I want to touch on. Engaging in conversation. Conversation is, and we've seen this, conversation rules the nation. How you talk, what you speak, what you talk about is very important when it comes to literacy. Discussing their daily activities, discussing the books, comprehending, not just accepting nothing answers, critical thinking skills. What am I, as the conversation that I'm having with my student, what is the depth of this conversation? What did I get? Am I able to understand and digest the information they gave to me? And the better you are able to get their information from them, the better you are able to understand what their day-to-day practice from their mouth is, will carry over to what we see in the outcomes of comprehension, understanding, reading fluency, uh, all across the board. So I hope I added something to that.
You mentioned something really important though. You were talking about out of school time, like supplementing that, because you should be doing as much as you can. Also, know that your schools received a lot of money through ESSER grants to make sure there was high
Very
dosage
good.
tutoring. They got speech pathologists in your schools. You're supposed to have psychologists. You're supposed to have tutoring. You're supposed to have all these things. So go back to your district also, though, and ask them, hey, where did that money go to? Do we have high
That's
dosage
good.
tutoring? Do we have these after school programs? And if we don't, why don't we? Push back a little bit on that because
Yeah.
the money is there and they're supposed to be using it for a reason.
And I'm glad you said that.
Yes.
I want to add real quick to that comment. Make sure they're not over ratio. A lot of time you have too many
Mm-hmm.
people having too many students, and they're not getting the time and resources
Yep.
that they could from these professionals. It's not the professionals first; it's the people with the money. So go to the board meetings, find out where they are, and or write a letter, ask your parents, ask your friends. You guys we talk about all these other TV shows. Let's talk about our baby's education. And these funds need to be make sure they're in the
Yes.
right places, paying the right people at the right time. I'm done.
Awesome. Okay, guys, listen, we have a
Absolutely.
couple of more questions left to ask, so we may be getting to some of these things. I want to go ahead and get to the next question, which is very important. We're going to say, give us a very quick answer to this, but very impactful and informative. Uh, this question says, how do you see schools reimagining the use of school libraries for training and development of educators, students, and parents? So this addresses everything that we just heard, the comments around what are some solutions, that we can see with reimagining the use of school libraries? Dia, we'll start with you.
I think it's really beautiful when you can get your parent associations and your school librarians to come together to host things for the whole community that can last from first thing in the morning, where maybe even at drop off, parents can come in and do things, and teachers are there, everybody's there, and can mix and mingle all the way through the evening, just to make sure that there's time for everyone to get in there and do something together, right? Because I think what I'm putting together is that we're looking for a way for everyone to come together as a community to work towards this literacy development for the family. So creating this kind of hub atmosphere where the association, the parent association, and the librarians are creating some type of, not necessarily this big event, but where there's a theme, there's a common theme, and everyone knows, like, oh, this is the day that we get to come in here and do this thing together. Like, I think that would be, I wish I could articulate it better, but I think that would be beautiful, where the school library becomes like a hub.
So, and there's something in the comments that said, the problem with school libraries is once the school closes, they close. No, that is your school. So you can talk to your principal and let them know. Like, as we said, go with your PTO, your PTSO, your PTA. There's other decentralized methods to be engaged too. You as a parent can just say, hey, I want to talk to my principal. I want to schedule some time in my library after school. And this is what I want to do. I want to train some parents, or I want to do some professional development. We have a number of provisional and new teachers, for example, here in Charles County. So we do extensive training aligned to the science of reading and to other professional development. And we should definitely be using our libraries for that PD time, as well as other stakeholders. So though we also have those goals for our educators, I feel like this is where we are supposed to also be training our parents, our caregivers, and our community members, because we're all helping these babies. So shout out to my school, William Diggs Elementary, because we hosted a fall academic night just this month. And we hosted families in our library and in our classrooms, while they also took care of our babies, doing things with pumpkins and fun things in the gym. And we got to learn a little bit. I got to learn about comprehension and decoding. I got to also learn why they changed how to do math, and nobody asked me, but they did it. So now I know how to do math, help my second grade and first grade do math. But all of this can be done within our school libraries and our local public libraries. So don't think that once the school closes, oh, that's it, I don't have access to my library. No, you do. That's your school. Go ahead and ask for it.
I will say that I want to give another little shout out to Marietta City Schools in metropolitan Atlanta, because I went to their back to school event. And they had created in a park this magical, evidence-based, structured literacy wonderland, and so many families from the community came with their kids. We all had watermelon popsicles after, and it was one of these great things. But the tie-in is that the Cobb County Library bookmobile came. And I live very, very close to my branch library. So I don't often see the bookmobile around, because I just go to my branch, and I have two branches from which to choose. We live in a very geographically library rich area, which is awesome. But the bookmobile came by, and I got an opportunity to talk to them, and they are really trying hard to match up with school events to make sure that families in our community are aware that we have a great branch system in Cobb County, and Marietta has the main library sits in the middle of the city of Marietta downtown. So it's very heartening to see how our libraries have started to do this. The other thing that I would say is that we need to encourage our libraries to offer decodable books in their children's section, so that there is ability for a family to come in and sit down and work with their kids on decoding, if that's where those children are. But I'm all for the libraries. I love our libraries.
Awesome. I'll try to keep this answer as brief as possible, but I got my love of books from a true librarian. I got my love of books from a true librarian, and from that gave me the world. We have lost the art of librarian. They're doing away with libraries, and unless you have somebody who also can share that love for the word, the written word, it's a reason why we call it liberal arts and science. It's an art. It's a craft that has been honed and developed and mastered by this individual. And for us to image, we have to first re-image the importance of having a person who is knowledgeable of books, of the
Mhm.
resources, of the systems and policies and procedures and how a library should be ran and organized. It is not okay for you just to throw anybody in that building, in that room with one of the most important resources that we could ever have. Our all of our history is in that room, all of our all of our history is in our room. Everything we should know, all of our knowledge are in these books. So I think we should start first with putting somebody in the room that is the expert of that environment. Just like we want with any other education, part of our education system, we want the expert, who's somebody who has mastered that room and the content of it. We need to put somebody back in there, and that's what's not happening. They're cutting when we're cutting funds. The first thing to go is some schools don't have, and I'm talking about money in Taiwan. Some schools don't even have libraries. They don't have a book. They don't have a room with books. You need the books.
Yep.
Awesome. So, wow, this conversation is really moving along, and we still have time for a couple of questions, but we're going to break it down because we want to touch on advocacy. So, I'm going to propose this question first to Dia. I'm sorry, to Tina and Pascal. In your areas of work, what do you feel are the major issues working families are facing, and what is your organization doing to address those issues?
Well, that's not a small question. um, part of the greatest issue is that students are not being identified with the characteristics of dyslexia. And those children are the ones for whom our work is the most important, because we are really trying to raise awareness within schools across the state with teachers to eliminate the myths that prevent children from being unseen as having a learning disability and being otherwise characterized as a behavior problem or someone who is just not trying hard enough or someone who is less than, because our children are not less than, and that is literacy, robbing children of literacy, um, by not teaching them how to read and not getting them where they need to go. That needs to be every parent's focus. Um, and I've lost my train of thought. Oh, what we can do. Oh, the other thing is that in many instances, private tutoring for students is prohibitively expensive, wildly expensive, and access then becomes a very critical issue. Kareem Weaver, who was in the Right to Read film, said a couple of years ago, just take a geographic look using Google and look at some of your high schools and look at where your tutoring centers are clustered. And that will answer the question as to who and where tutoring services are most available. And it all has to do with the ability to pay. There are tricks you can do with your taxes, and you would need to speak to a tax professional in order to access that, to pay for it. But the fact of the matter is that our schools need to be doing a better job of teaching students to prevent the reading failure in the first place, because a lot of parents do not have upwards in New York City. I'm hearing it's upwards of $300 an hour for a private Orton Gillingham tutor, and there is nothing acceptable about that. There are some organizations that are taking a stab at that, but mostly parents have got to, first of all, see the problem, know that the problem is real, and do whatever they can to get help from the school. But you may also have to be sitting around your dining table. And one of the things that we've always done, and we have on our Instagram, is a pinned post with resources that are free or no cost to parents so that they can start to learn to help their own students at home. And it may be something as simple as asking your child,
Is it my turn? Oh. Okay, so a couple things. So for me, I feel like some of the major issues that working families are facing, it's really being in that place of hopelessness and jadedness, especially when a system or others are gaslighting you to think that this is only a you problem or that there's no problem at all. But when we have children that are below proficiency rates in both literacy and numeracy and social studies, like data doesn't lie to me, so you can't lie to me. But at that point, for me, it's building the capacity, knowledge, and aspirations of our parents, our caregivers, and our community leaders to demand more, because for way too long we've accepted dysfunction and we've accepted being gaslit. So for me, that includes being involved in the ways that you can. And that's in traditional methods or decentralized approaches. That's your PTSOs, or that's you as a parent going in and saying, I want to do more for my child and my school community. For my organization, whether it's with great schools or even with National Parents Union or in my own community, for us, it's showing the bright spots and it's asking the why not. Continue to ask why not until you get to a point when someone's like, I don't know why not. Well, let's start there. And we can start building and ask the things of like, why can't we remove barriers to AP and create more pathways? Why can't we make sure that we're providing reading supports for all students, tier 1 supports all the way to tier 3? Why can't we have students that are learning? Why can't our schools be anti-racist? Just keep asking those questions as to why not, and start pushing that forward, because you know it is possible. Look for others that are doing collective work. For me, it's connecting with you all and with others in other communities, because then I can see what you're doing and I can bring it back to my community and say, hey, I know some dope American guerreros and parent leaders that did this. Why can't we do that? For me, it's always asking the why not. And we continue to push back to make sure that our places of learning are joyous, affirming, safe, and rigorous.
Awesome. Thank you guys for these answers. We have one last question that everyone can see on the screen. Dia, we're going to start with you, then Dr. T, because the policy corner is getting ready to begin. So in 60 seconds or less, maybe 90, how can you advocate, or how can we collectively advocate for early learning and literacy resources in daycare and pre-K programs? Dia, we'll start with you and end with Dr. T.
Yes, I mean, I feel like with all change, we have to come together. We have to hit the streets. Like, I'm a face-to-face person, so I will go into the place and ask the why nots, as Pascal said, and what do we have in place? Kind of take that inventory, and from there, you start to use your voice to demand that change and make sure that our littlest babies are getting the resources that they need. Writing the people we need to write all the way at the top. I know certain daycare centers, you got to write, a director, executive director, someone all the way at the top, but just having multiple voices behind you to support you, I think is what really creates the change.
Awesome. That was a great answer. Only thing I would like to add real briefly is that reaching out to your state and local entities, calling those phone numbers that's on the pamphlets, and writing those letters. You can start petition letters. And I know it's a big thing, but you can also do that. But mainly reaching out, calling those numbers, and following up on those resources that are listed is a great way to start advocating. If you're using it, you're going to start sending more information that way. So that's one of the biggest things. Make sure we're calling those phone numbers, writing those emails. They're all on the pamphlet, and sometimes we just overlook it. But I would start there.
Awesome. Listen, we have had a phenomenal panel on this evening. Join us in thanking them. Phenomenal information, testimony, resources, examples, problems, but also solutions that were provided. So, again, we want to remind you all to make sure you get connected to what we're doing with the National Parents Union. Go to the website at the bottom because here's why. This is the last town hall of the year. This is our fourth edition. We had a lot of people to register. We have a lot of people connected to this conversation. And I'm going to go ahead and drop a major announcement like right now because we have a couple of seconds before the policy corner. Again, please make sure you're thanking the panelists in the comments so they can see your feedback because again everybody loves it, right? Listen, we are bringing back the town hall series next year. It will be on Tuesday, March the 5th, same bat time, same bat channel. But let me tell you, we are going to be talking about and we're going to be focusing on, go ahead and do your own special drum roll wherever you are, because I know we're going to have 1,000 people registered for this conversation. When we bring the Let's Get Real conversation back in March, we're going to be focused on special education. We're starting off
Yes.
the series with a focus on special education when we return in March of 2024. So if you are interested in being a part of what we're doing with this series, Let's Get Real, connecting you to the work we're doing around literacy, make sure you shoot Shirley and I an email. Now, if you're watching and you don't know how to connect us, again, let me tell you, it's very simple. There's a spot that you can go to that connects you to all of these phenomenal things, and it is, you got it, nationalparentsunion.org. Thank you, everybody, a part of the panel discussion tonight. We are so thankful to have you guys. We're going to let you view this with the rest of us and reclaim a little bit of time with your little ones and your families. But again, thank you guys so much for being on this evening. Now, I have to preface that the Policy Corner is getting ready to make a connection to literacy and special education. So this is a preface to what is happening. And you guys may want to stay connected. But again, thank you, Dr. T. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Pascal. Thank you, Dia, for being on this evening. And guys, remember these faces because we're coming to Indy. Georgia is already ready for our Parent Week of Action. Pascal, Dia, we're coming to a city near you. Again, thank you guys so much. And we're going to let you guys go as we get ready for our Policy Corner. Now, again, for those who are staying connected to this conversation, we are excited about the upcoming Town Hall series. Again, Let's Get Real, starting back in 2024, May 5th. We're kicking it off with special education. Make sure you get connected. Now, it is almost 8 o'clock. We know it's getting late, but we're going to end out strong with the Policy Corner. And we have some dynamic individuals who are going to be joining us. I'm going to pass the mic to Shirley right quick before we bring them on and get started.
Awesome, Jason. So I have to give a shout out again to the panel. A shout out to everyone that is commenting in the chat. It is really popping tonight, and we love to see that. So I am very, very excited to introduce this next section, our Policy Corner with Ariel Smith, Coolio Pringle, and our special guest, Rachel.
Awesome, guys. We see you all on. It is 8 o'clock on the dot. Mm-hmm. And so, again, a shout out to Mercury and our parent powered parent voice team. If you have not read about these phenomenal individuals, then stay tuned because we're going to pass the mic to Ariel to let her give a little bit more context to the policy corner and be engaged with Kulia and our special guest for the evening. Rachel, thank you so much. We're going to let Ariel do some more introductions and get engaged in the conversation.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. This has been such an awesome conversation so far. Thank you so much for participating. The chat has been so good, and I'm so excited to talk about the work that's happening in the great state of Minnesota because as we've all talked tonight, one of the things that we've heard loud and clear is that parents want to see policy changes that will support their students as they're learning to read and do math in school. And we know that when we see effective policy change, we see changes in student outcomes. We know that students succeed when the structures are in place for them to. And so with that, I'd love to introduce Rachel Berger and Kulia Pringle. Kulia is our incredible state director at the National Parents Union Minnesota. And Rachel Berger is with Decoding Dyslexia Minnesota. Thank you all both so much for being here. Maybe we could just start with some quick, maybe Kulia, we can start with you and you can talk about the work that you've done to advance literacy in the state of Minnesota.
Thank you, Ariel. Hello, everybody. My name is Kulia Pringle, and I am the Minnesota State Director for the National Parents Union. I'm also a former educator. And I would just say that I got into this work not really knowing the conversation around literacy. When I started doing parent advocacy work, I was starting to see suspension rates for Black kids that were just disproportionately high. I started seeing labeling with EBD for Black children that were disproportionately high. I was noticing that, the classroom diversity and the culturally responsiveness and the cultural competency inside the classroom was missing for Black children. And as I started digging deeper and noticing that not only was Black children being affected with certain labels, but also connecting with white parents, learning about dyslexia and the dyslexia movement and all of the white parents that were in this fight talking about literacy. And so that's where my knowledge started to expand and connected with local advocates in Minneapolis Public Schools, David Weingartner and Sarah Spafford Freeman, where we pushed locally for a curriculum audit. That took us a while, but we are here. And then ended up connecting with Rachel Berger. She's the former CEO of Decoding Dyslexia Minnesota. She currently does consulting work right now. She's also one of my great allies. She does a lot of work at the Minnesota Literacy Coalition, which we launched this year. And Rachel and the Dyslexia Moms has done a lot of work when it comes to literacy and setting precedents in Minnesota and to getting us to the READ Act. So with that, I want to introduce my friend, Rachel Berger.
Hi there. Thank you for having me tonight. Yes, I've been at this for a little while. And what's more amazing is the number of organizations and community members that we've brought along the way. I saw Tina Engberg, old Decoding Dyslexia pal, was on earlier. And when these decodings launched their movement 10 plus years ago, we were just getting started raising the bar. But we knew that the advocacy for literacy as a whole for all children was something that we couldn't do alone, and that we would need to bring other community members, other organizations and professionals along. And I think, what's really amazing is in Minnesota, we have really reached that peak of community engagement and everyone being involved in this as a stakeholder. And I think that's why we have been so successful this past year. So I know you guys have some questions for us about the READ Act, and Kulia and I are eager to share more. So what format would you like us to follow?
Yes, thank you so much for being here. And as you said, we'd love to hear more about the READ Act. So maybe you could just tell us a little bit about the policy that passed last legislative session and how it will positively impact kids across the state.
Kulia, do you want me to take a stab at it and you want to fill in, or how do you want to do?
Yeah, Rachel, I want you to go ahead, but I want you to
Okay.
start how we got to the READ Act because, they talked earlier about teacher preparation and getting money for teachers to get training. And,
Sure.
you sort of,
Yeah.
track that advocacy by getting somebody an MDE and then how we got to the
Yeah. So that's great. That does probably help to give a little bit of the backstory. So 10 years ago, I started DDMN with a group of parent advocates and professionals and educators who were concerned about our literacy scores. Really, what we did is we set out with some very strategic but ambitious policy goals. And the first cornerstone piece for us was to acknowledge dyslexia in a school educational setting, because a lot of time back then we weren't saying the word, which was causing a barrier, not just for students and parents, but also for educators that wanted to serve those students. So we started with that piece. We then moved to a piece of policy that would give parents, actually, it was a tax rebate at the time, but that's less important than the Department of Education specialist, because we knew that if we didn't have someone internally at the Department of Education to help direct districts and drive from an inside place of guidance within our state, we wouldn't have other pieces. So once we put her in place, we were able to then go after a screening bill, some professional development, and higher education guidance, as well as the READ Act that came. And so 2 years prior to us passing the READ Act this session, we actually worked with our teachers union, our school boards association. I mean, we were really intentional about the relationships that were built in this process. And, having all of these community-based organizations, again, was the critical piece. So 2 years ago, we worked with all of these organizations at the table to pass a pilot, so to speak, for letters, because they wanted to see, do teachers really like this stuff? Is this really something that they need? Is this going to help before we go after more funding? And the effects of that were astounding. So within 48 hours of that $3 million grant being passed, it was nearly full. Like, I think we had approximately 3,000 teachers that we could, with that $3 million that we could serve. And it was 3/4 full. And that was on a December Christmas holiday within 48 hours. I mean, teachers are on break and they've signed up. So once we got teachers through that first cohort group, we were starting to get such amazing feedback that provided some of the foundation for us to go back to and say, hey, we need something bigger. And that kind of helped us birth the READ Act, so to speak.
So tell us about the READ Act, because a lot of people that are on this call would love, the opportunity to replicate something similar in their state, and hopefully we see some progress at a national level this year. So tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing, the work that you did to pass the READ Act, and what's in the bill.
Sure. Kulia, do you want me to go, or?
Yes, go ahead, because you are
Okay.
you are the expert here.
Okay, well, Kulia's got plenty of boots on the ground experience with this as well, just as much. But I do feel like it's wonderful to be able to talk about it. So I appreciate the opportunity. So the READ Act is, if I'm trying to summarize here due to timing, is a historic investment, $90 million into beginning to address our literacy issues. Never before in our state have we invested so deeply into literacy. And so that's something that I am really proud about. I mean, this was not something that, it was a one person. Again, this was everyone around the table. A lot of our education groups, the teachers union, the school boards association, the policymakers, the teachers, the administrators, higher education, community stakeholders. This was a very, very big deal. And the thing we didn't do is we didn't just
address one area of concern in literacy that teachers were coming to us with or parents were coming to us with, such as utilizing a balanced reading approach. Like that's one issue, right? But we didn't address just one area and think that that's going to be a silver bullet and it's going to fix everything. Really, what we did with the READ Act was to address multiple factors of weaknesses when it comes to literacy instruction so that we could really get at the root and be able to see those scores change faster than we could imagine. So what the READ Act does is it enables, sorry, it's exciting, so I have to remember what to say because there's so much. But the thing is we funded everything in the READ Act that we're asking people to implement. So we're giving professional development dollars to all of our teachers to be able to get training in the science of reading. Our Department of Education is providing guidance on what are those trainings that you can take. So it's a A, B, and C list of guidance, funding there for that. We are asking school districts to change their curriculum. We're asking them to no longer use balanced literacy curriculums, and we're giving guidance on which curriculums they can use or are encouraged strongly to use. That is not a mandate that you have to use one of these. That's one of the unfortunate parts. But they have curriculum dollars, and curriculums cost a significant amount for our school districts. And this is why school districts only go through that process every 6 to 10 years. It's a huge budget item. So we're paying for that. Then we also have screeners for literacy, dyslexia characteristics, etc., that our Department of Education has guided heavily on what is appropriate to use. And within that, we also have another specialist at the Department of Education. This is guiding the science of reading for the entire state. So it's not our dyslexia specialist jobs to do that because she's very specific to dyslexia. We now have someone guiding the whole process at the Department of Education. We also created a partnership with the University of Minnesota's CARE program. So they're kind of working in lockstep to help districts, and school districts are all able to hire a literacy specialist who has strengths in the science of reading. So, I mean, this is really big and really exciting. And hopefully some of the things that we're able to do in Minnesota and some of the language in our bills is something that others could be able to replicate. I think that's something we all want to do. We look at other states, and the thing is there are a lot of different pieces that make that possible or difficult, right? Here in Minnesota, we don't have a state board of education, which can make that hard, right? To approve of certain programs or curriculums.
Yep. This is so helpful.
Sorry,
thank you
so many words.
No, it's great. And love the chat about OG being a great curriculum. I think if there was a recipe, for changes that we need to see in our schools via policy, it's ensuring that we have high quality instructional materials in all of our classrooms, which means making real investments in our curriculums. It's making sure that we have high quality and ongoing professional development for our teachers. And it's making sure that our students, as many have talked about so far on this, are regularly assessed, and that assessment data is accurately and urgently communicated to parents. So thank you so much. I just have one more very quick thing, which is that the National Parents Union is working on a literacy resolution at a federal level this upcoming year. And so really excited that we will be hosting a National Literacy Week of Action in Washington, D.C. this April. So stay tuned for more information on that. But we believe that this is something that every district across our country should be working on and adopting with urgency, because as we all know, our kids are struggling to keep up in reading. So thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about the policy. And Jason and Shirley, I'll kick it back to you.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. Listen, we already gave everybody the special announcement earlier that when the series returns in March, We're going to be focusing in on special education, but there's another part to that because the policy corner is just a snippet of the work we'll be doing in the interim. We are definitely wanting to see a replication of the bill in Minnesota and other places. So if you are viewing this, if you're going to rewatch this and want to get connected to this work, again, you guys already know I'm going to tell you to go ahead and make sure that you get connected to the National Parents Union and what we are doing. Again, thank you guys so much. This will not be the last time that you see Rachel, Ariel, and Kulia, because it won't be so much of educating us on what to do, but it'll be a recap of some of the successes that we're going to hear from these bills being passed in other places. So we're excited about this because this is the work of NPU. Shirley, I'm going to turn it back over to you. But again, Policy Corner participants, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you again for joining us. And just wanted to remind you, as we mentioned before, that this Thursday, November 16th, is National Parent Involvement Day. And as members and partners and friends, you do have the opportunity to join an exclusive event that the National Parents Union is hosting following Secretary Cardona's presentation. Ours is directly after, and it's going to be an after party where you will have the opportunity to ask questions of members of the U.S. Department of Education. So we have provided the link for the registration for that. Here it is. Be sure to register and join us. You do not want to miss that the opportunity to have your voices heard. And anyone that is in this work I'm sure would love to have the ear of the U.S. Department of Education. So here's your opportunity to do that in partnership with the National Parents Union.
Yes, guys, listen, get connected. We're expecting hundreds of our partners, affiliates. Even if you are new to NPU, we're inviting you to join this conversation. Parents from all across the nation. I've got to say, this is the fourth edition of the Let's Get Real Town Hall series. Shirley, it has been phenomenal moderating this with you,
Absolutely.
closing this out for National Family Engagement Month. Parents, we celebrate you. Families, we celebrate you. We are also here to ensure that you have what you need. So, again, please make sure that you join us at the nationalparentsunion.org. It is also free, guys, and you get access to some phenomenal organizers and the parent voice team, and as you saw, Ariel, the policy department. So I'm not gonna say we got it going on, but we do have it going on. So go ahead and join us. We are a few minutes over time, so please enjoy your families. Please enjoy this week of celebration. We will see you on Thursday.
Mhm.
But also make sure that you save the date for March the 5th when the Let's Get Real Town Hall series returns. But until then, y'all, check out Shirley and don't believe the hype. And let's stay connected with the work of NPU. It's all peace and love, everybody. Thank you guys so much. We're at
Peace
the end.
out. Thank you.